Welcome everyone. Today we have Dove from Kujira and Milky from the Bird Nest. We're going to have a great uh, chat today. We're going to be talking about centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, and what Kujira has been building, which is very unique. First of all, Milky, I believe we have a word from
We do indeed have a note from our sponsor, so here we go.
Milk Metaverse is a metaverse platform for the media industry that will bridge the gap between the content producers and the audience. Mediaverse from Milk Platform will be a combination of virtual reality, blockchain technology, and artificial intelligence. Visit the website metaverse.milk.global.
All right, sounds great. Dove, can you tell us who you are? Who's Kujira? Give us an intro for anyone that has never heard of Kujira before.
Absolutely, yeah. So Kujira is a pretty new L1 built on the Cosmos SDK. What we see the future of Kujira being is basically a very complete and kind of circular DeFi ecosystem. And by that, I mean, first of all, we are semi-permissioned, which means that in order to come onto the chain, you need to pass governance. And the whole thinking behind that is to rather have a chain that focuses on quality rather than quantity. And throughout that governance process, people are really sticky about things like actual revenue generation and actually having a good business plan. So basically, in a nutshell, a layer one, but more importantly, a DeFi ecosystem of products that have a business case, have revenue, and in most cases share that portion of that revenue back to Kujira stakers because we have no inflation on the chain. So that's really the gist of it, I would say.
That's so cool. So can you tell us a little more on the history of Kujira? Were you always a DEX? Why is the DEX important as well? And just walk us through how that evolved.
Absolutely. So for people that wouldn't know, we actually started as a protocol on Terra, and we focused on liquidations initially. We got in a room and we got to thinking about how liquidations usually work on chain or sometimes off. And we thought to ourselves, it doesn't seem right that there's a huge market of liquidated collateral that's being sent, that's being offered to essentially bots with large capital, right? So the numbers can vary, but you're probably talking about a handful to a dozen of liquidators that can usually win these positions or these discounts. And it has always been traditionally a very like first come, first served model. So you end up needing to have really good technology. The bots need to be tip top. But more importantly, we didn't really like the fact that all this liquidated collateral happens in the background. Just didn't really seem to be very democratic, which I guess is something that crypto tries to solve. And so we started putting our heads together, and we worked very hard with the Anchor team back then, kind of advised them on their queue while we built the app, which is the ORCA app, which is already live. I know we're going to talk about the suite, but just for context of where we came from, we ran the liquidations on Terra, everything that was involved in there, predominantly B Luna, but obviously a couple of other assets. Anything that was available on Anchor and could potentially be liquidated. We helped to build a system that now means that anyone with a wallet and some funds can go in and bid for this discounted collateral, which we felt was pretty cool because before, just if we look at Terra, the discounts were a flat 30%. So you were getting these bots going in, kind of fighting with each other. And then whoever won would get a flat discount, which was really high. And so what happens now is because you've got tens of thousands of real human beings that are bidding at various different premiums, pretty much all of the time now, the premiums paid out are less, but more importantly, any of the regular users that are involved can now actually participate in this, previously completely blocked off market. So that's how we got our name. And then, towards, I don't want to say the end of Terra, I mean the last Terra 1. Obviously, Terra is coming back again, and that's awesome. But just in terms of our context, when that initial crash happened in May, we then decided we believe that it's time to move to our own layer 1. And that was, of course, partly because of what happened, but we'd been speaking about it before quite a lot. So it wasn't just some kind of knee-jerk reaction. Moving on to the question about the DEX, we actually launched Fin, our on-chain order book DEX, literally like during that whole crisis that was happening. I know, Julian, you know us. We don't like to not build because of the market conditions or because of what's going on. So we just thought, listen, let's just release it. We told people we are going to release it. And so that really was the beginning of us getting into the DEX space. We, as mentioned before, we had started having a vision of actually being much more than just a protocol, whether it's doing liquidations or maybe just being an order book DEX. We envisioned something bigger. So we realized that the order book DEX would need to play a crucial role in the new ecosystem that we'll be building. So those two products then moved with us through to the layer 1. Of course, ORCA didn't launch initially because there weren't any markets available just yet. There weren't any lending markets, for example, in the Cosmos. And it was only when we decided that we wanted to go the stablecoin route that we then had a market, because it's over collateralized by Atom. So now we have this whole idea that you can go and you can bid for liquidations, Atom liquidations. You can mint the stablecoin using Atom as your collateral. But in terms of the DEX, this is where obviously all of the trading activity is going to happen. And that's very, very crucial to the ecosystem. So we wanted to do it because we wanted to build this product, and we felt like we had a little bit of an edge with the way that we built it in the background. But yeah, now it's just a case of kind of onboarding new pairs, new projects, and really just pushing forward with the ecosystem. There's now, there's various protocols building on Kujira, and of course they're going to need a place to trade. So the DEX is becoming more and more important kind of every day.
Yeah, I think the DEX launched, if I'm not mistaken, the day of, or like right the week that Terra was completely collapsing. So it was just such a mixed feelings of like, people wanted to go trade on it, while at the same time everything was just disappearing.
Yeah,
that was quite a start. We do have comments from the audience. Where's your wine, Doug?
Oh, Riggs, good man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 p.m, so I guess I could be naughty, but I thought I'd keep a clear head for this one.
Yeah, no, all good. I think Fin is a very unique DEX compared to what exists out there. So right now, most DEXs kind of work with this automatic market maker model with a curve. You got liquidity pools with 2 assets on each side, and then often you actually have to give rewards to those people providing liquidity. Can you tell us about Fin? What makes it unique? Why is it? I think it's the only DEX in the space that has this unique model.
I mean, I don't want to say the only. I don't know much about. There's 1 or 2 others that have been mentioned, but you could really think about it literally like, say, a KuCoin, but decentralized, in that you basically have to have trades happening on either end of the spread. And once there's a few, we go through a bootstrapping phase where people can, place, buy orders or sell orders before a market opens up. But that typically takes about half an hour, depending on the market. And then once those trades come in, the key is that there's no need to provide incentives in order for people to be able to trade. It's literally just a willing buyer, willing seller model. So as I say, very much just like a centralized exchange, which we feel is pretty cool because from experience, when you're launching on that, like a typical AMM, for example, you obviously need to provide a whole bunch of liquidity and then also provide incentives. So it obviously has its challenges, which I know we're going to go through, and I'm more than happy to speak about those. But those are also little things that we are tackling. So yeah, it literally is a 100% on chain. There's literally no computing that's happening behind the scenes. You can just see that if you place a trade, you can see everything happens on chain. So yeah, we're proud of it. And now the job is to bring more traders and bring liquidity.
Yeah, and I think with the recent update you guys had with Bo, which was essentially a market maker on DEX, the candles actually evened out really beautifully, and now you have this very beautiful candle structure on Fin. And you can see almost a before and after. So how does Bo work in? How does Fin evolve with that? Can you tell me a bit more on how?
Yeah.
Or even the suites on Kujira, because it did start as a liquidation engine and now it's a couple apps.
Yeah, exactly. So we always wanted this really kind of circular effect going on with our, like I say, internal apps. Obviously, we've got protocols that are launching on top of the chain, but in terms of the Kujira team itself, we wanted to make sure that a few really key elements are taken care of. So of course, having a stable coin and then potentially lending markets along the way. I know SRL Finance are building a lending market. If you have, if you go to the Kuji USK pair, you can see it in really good, and I'll explain why it's just on that pair. So of course we need to have liquidations functioning properly. That is a really key element. So we've got that covered. ORCA was really well battle tested. And we know that it works. People are happy, they bid there, they get their bids filled, and in doing so, they're actually protecting the stable coin as well, of course, because liquidations are one of the key components. So now, if you look at from 16 there, you can see where those bars were jumping around, and then just after that, exactly there. This is where we soft launched Bo. Now, Bo is effectively an automated market maker. And what this means is that people are going to be able to place money into vaults and earn either just a trading fee, which at the moment, even that it ranges, of course, depending on who's in there, but it could be around 10, even 15%, depending on the market. But more importantly, we've tried to bring in a kind of hybrid approach as well with Bo. So naturally, we don't have inflation, but we also realize that in order to drive proper liquidity through Fin, we need people to come and use the product, right? They need to understand that they need to be able to see, hey, what actually happens if these markets are operating really optimally, and there's really tight spreads. When you have a good trading experience, you tend to bring in more traders, you tend to bring in other market makers, arbitrages, all the rest of it. So we soft launched there where you had your cross before, with only $5,000 worth of assets in the vault. So, half of that being Kuji, half being USK. And you can see the result there. The experience went from something really, really choppy to what you would typically expect to see pretty much anywhere. And as I say, that's with very, very, very little funds. So with Bo, teams are going to be able to incentivize their pairs, much like you would on an AMM. And as I say, that the reason for doing so isn't, let's endlessly offer inflation. What we're saying is, maybe take 50K, 100K, it doesn't matter what it is, out of some kind of operational budget, offer these incentives so that people can then start realizing that this is actually a trading experience much like that you would expect on a centralized exchange, except it's all fully decentralized. Of course, you always own your keys, and it's always your crypto. Naturally, with what's going on now, that's becoming more and more important, kind of by the minute, really. And so we are expecting some kind of cyclical event to happen where, obviously people are getting incentives, therefore they're trading. That's pushing more liquidity through the book, and it's making these spreads really nice and tight so that people can actually have an experience that they would expect really when going fully decentralized in the trading environment. So these three products, Fin, obviously what we're looking at now, Bo being it's going to be released really soon. It'll kind of look like it'll look a lot like a standard AMM, but it's really, really capital efficient in that, let's say, for example, usually you would need like millions in a liquidity pool. In terms of Bo and Fin, you only need whatever trades are actually in the book at any given time to be able to complete that trade without major slippage. So this really is the benefit. It's something like 1,000 times more capital efficient, maybe more, and that's something that we really are interested in at Kujira. So yeah, these three products, ORCA, Fin, and Bo, kind of all work together with each other. They all complement each other. And what Bo will do is bring this tighter spreads, cleaner trading experience, which is going to mean that when new products launch on Fin, they'll have the opportunity to utilize Bo as well. And then, of course, when you've got things like Perps and any kind of futures markets on Fin, you open up more ORCA markets, and then you can go and deposit into Bo in order to, push the liquidity and get a bit of APR there. So these three products are really, really the backbone of Kujira in terms of the internal tooling and how the ecosystem needs to be stabilized. And yeah, hopefully that gives a good enough idea about how these all work together. But it's important to note that when you have futures markets, as mentioned, there will be ORCA markets that open up as well. So anytime there is some kind of potential liquidation that could happen, people can go and bid for it in ORCA, and then they can go off to Fin and trade. Once we've only got Kuji USK running, as I say, with a very, very small amount of money, just doing a bit of live testing. Once you see it in all those other pairs, admittedly, a lot have low liquidity. Of course, it's only a few months in, but this is the exact issue that we're trying to tackle. And we're speaking to various partners, a lot of people that can play kind of like delta neutral strategies around here. We're looking for partners that want to, come in and help us with the liquidity, not looking for money per se, just looking for people that can come and help drive this ecosystem, because it's going to mean that, Cosmos has a really effective place to trade, much like they would on a centralized exchange, at least experience-wise.
Yeah, I think this is so important to kind of highlight. And actually, there's a very important question that was in the audience about how Fin actually works. So can you expand on Fin being 100% on chain and has 100% distribution on like non-FIFO, which is what even a lot of exchanges had.
Yeah,
and kind of the computational complexity, because I found this question rather unique, as not many people highlight this.
Yeah, no worries. So this kind of goes back to, I'm sure everyone in here has seen kind of the drama happening on Twitter and all the rest of it, but we kind of stumbled across something that allows exactly what we're talking about now, where the way that these orders are matched is definitely unlike anything that's happening out there. Which is kind of the reason that this is like, one piece of technology we were just wanting, to kind of push this forward a bit more, get a bit of TVL, but without going into, literally how it's built. It uses much more of a queue method, and it doesn't, there is literally no bias in terms of what trades are executed. So if you look at ORCA, it works pretty much in the same way. If you look at how those bids are distributed, if somebody goes into like a 5% pool, it doesn't matter when they got there. It doesn't matter how much they put in. So say, you go in, Julian, you put in 10 grand 10 minutes ago. I come in later, I put in 5 grand. Milky, you go and you put in 30. It doesn't matter what time you went and you placed those bids. Once that pool needs to be hit, much the same way on Fin, once that trade needs to be executed, there's an even distribution that just goes off and happens, and it'll just nibble from that, either that trade on Fin or that bid in ORCA. It'll just nibble them all at equal levels with absolutely no bias towards who it's taking it from or at what time. So it works in much the same way. We just applied that to as I say, we just applied that thinking to Fin. Just a couple of light bulb moments. We will definitely go through this kind of in more detail, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building our tooling on top. We do have docs and various things, but what we'll do, just to make this really clear, is we're going to be building out some various dashboards and ways that people can easily verify, what we're saying here, so that, without just going, hey, here's literally the tech behind it. You can just go on and see it for yourselves. It is O1 with respect to order volume. That part is true. And as I say, we'll build out some tooling to make this super, super clear. But I guess you still have to bear in mind that even though the technology around how bids are being executed, no matter what the volume, you are still kind of at the mercy of certain services. Like, for example, the API is it's been quite a pain. You still have to index all of these bids, right? And that ironically has been a bigger blocker than the actual tech that's making these trades actually execute. So this is probably a bigger challenge for us at the moment than the actual anything like sort of purely order volume related. We still need to make sure that we can actually index like all of these, potentially hundreds of thousands or hopefully millions of transactions. So yeah, definitely still challenges involved. And just to answer that question in a shorter way, as I say, we are going to make some tooling so that people can actually test this and kind of view it for themselves without us just going, hey, this is exactly how it works, and here's the contracts.
Great. And Dov, can you tell us a bit more? What have been the challenges with a DEX versus, well, exchanges do have this huge advantage just from the beginning, and then just launching a DEX now on your own layer one. The liquidity itself is such a hard fought commodity in crypto in general, but even in centralized exchanges.
Yeah.
What have been some of those challenges there?
Yeah. So liquidity is clearly the big one, right? How do you get people to bring their money across? How do you get people moving money through the ecosystem? It's kind of a multi-pronged attack, I suppose. Bo is going to be the first, and we think pretty big concept that we roll out, although it's more of a concept. There is out there Atrix. I mean, admittedly, we took huge inspiration from then. That's running on Serum on Solana. So it is a tried and tested methodology, but it's more than just, hey, create Bo and have these pools and potentially incentivize by giving away tokens. There's so much else going on behind the scenes. So, for example, if you just look at one of the protocols coming to Kujira, Atlo, they're going to be, they're a launch pad. Once a project launches, those tokens are going to need to be tradable somewhere. So again, it points back to Fin. So ultimately, you're going to see multiple projects being rolled out on Kujira or even elsewhere in the cosmos. But by default, the place to trade them, at least for quite a while, is going to be Fin. And that is going to give us that first mover advantage in terms of those individual markets. So let's say Calc Finance, for example, they're going to have a token and all the rest of it at some point. And because they're a Kujira internal project, Fin is going to be the home for them. They'll have a vault on Bo. And I think that's something important to realize. Right now, we're just kind of like hoping for everyone else's liquidity. Whereas down the line, as this becomes a fully fledged ecosystem, Fin will be the default place to trade these tokens. And in turn, that's going to mean that any new people coming along, anyone that wants to invest in Calc or any of the other projects coming along, are going to be trading on Fin. So we see this kind of being, it's unfortunately, it's not a switch that you can flick, and sadly, a lot of people, it's like, oh, we need liquidity. Like, yes, I know, I noticed. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So whether it's new projects, whether it's Bo and various other campaigns that we're working with, even with you, Julia, not sure how much I can say, but there's a lot of stuff that we're doing in order to bring people in through Fin and then incentivize them in some way. There's D-Loyal coming up. I had a really, really exciting chat with Mark yesterday. They're basically good to go with their referral stuff. So you're going to see referrals coming in. We're going to do a big push in terms of local money. They're currently trading elsewhere just because they were around pre us actually launching the L1. As I say, D-Loyal, the referrals, that's gonna be a really, really big deal. They've got that all up and running, good to go. So yeah, all of these protocols that are coming out are either just going to naturally bring more activity through Fin, or you've got affiliate marketing, and then a whole bunch of other people that have put their heads together to try and think of ways to grow the whole ecosystem, and in turn that basically will bring in more volume, right? It kind of, they go hand in hand. So yeah, it's not a switch, as I say, that you can just kind of turn on, but we feel like we're heading in the right direction, and hopefully Bo is going to be the first good example of, oh, okay, this actually works, and this makes the trading experience amazing. And then we move on to referrals and new projects and all sorts of other good stuff.
That's great to hear. Right now, with the whole environment that's happening, centralized exchanges having a lot of issues, do you see that as a potential advantage for Fin and decentralized exchanges in general? How do you look to bring those users over? How do you see users kind of taking responsibility, using their own wallets? Kujira is launching their own wallet, which is self-custody, which even further kind of highlights that importance of people owning their own coins and then being able to use them on a DEX. Because I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of people that say, oh, I do want to hold my own coins, but then how do I exit into a stable coin, or how do I manage my money? So how do you think Kujira, Fin, and even DEXs in general can kind of onboard a lot of these users that are having maybe trouble with the complications of DeFi?
Yeah, good question. So I think first of all, it's really good tech. I know you mentioned the wallets. We're focusing really hard on that wallet feeling like something that you just want, that you want to use, that you get pleasure out of using, that has subtle, not just animations, but really, really clever UX, and something that makes you feel like, okay, this is kind of you get apps like that. You get neobanks that you just kind of, you always want to kind of open. Yeah, that tweet's going to be very far down by now. But so first of all, I think it's creating a good user experience. I think Terra were really good in that respect, in terms of building products and creating an ethos for good UX. We very much have that same ethos. Hopefully people can see that. We take a lot of pride in how we build our products, the presentation of them, the usability of them. So this is probably the first step. The wallets, if you consider that it'll have integration with both Cardo Money and local, so you can on-ramp peer-to-peer if you like. Otherwise, yeah, sure, go through in certain countries, I know, have to KYC and all that, but it's one step in the right direction, being able to pop open a wallet, easily load it up, either from a credit card or in a peer-to-peer manner, if which you'll be able to do, and then be able to interact with tools that have been created really mobile friendly. Up until now, you haven't even been able to trade on Kujira from a mobile, so that's a really big reason why we started building the wallet. So this should open up a new wave of users. A lot of people have said, they prefer being on their mobile, or they're waiting for the mobile to come out. So yeah, that's one big step. The other step is, ever since this happened, we have been approaching traders on Twitter and wherever we can find, as well as getting a fair amount of DMs from from some names that people will definitely recognize. So we are working now with all these guys. We have quite a few calls that we've already had, some that are already coming up. So the next step really is just about education. It's getting our products in front of these people and saying, have a look, like have a play, go on the test net, because there you can see Bo in action. You can see what kind of trading experience you're going to have. And you can get a real feel for how this ecosystem is put together. The fact that, we have these ORCA markets for liquidations, everything is available to people. So yeah, the second point is really just around getting out there. We're going to have a whole bunch of campaigns, whether it just be purely informational or whether people are going to be incentivized. We're going to be doing everything we possibly can in order to make sure that as many people as possible are educated about the Kujira ecosystem, and that they can have a chance to go and play around there. I see you found it. So yeah, like you can see there, we're trying to really be conscious of the little touches with the wallets. We see the wallet being ultimately becoming really more of something like an Apple Pay, right? Where you just walk in somewhere and you tap and you go. That's really more the direction that we see this wallet going. Yeah, Milky likes it. You can see there, that's what we're moving towards. Like, hey, you were there, boom, like I've just paid you. It's easy, it's quick. We do have fast block times, 2 odd seconds. So in pretty much the same amount of time as you would expect to wait, maybe even quicker, holding your credit card on top of a machine. This is really where we are pushing. So the Kujira platform, we really think a sidechain purely for payments, where any fees are rolled in. So you don't have a normie coming along and like making a payment in a store and then going, what the, like, wait, you've got to pay gas, like this kind of stuff is not normal for most people. So yeah, we see that this wallet and the concept of a payment sidechain that is incredibly fast, only dedicated to payments, and as I say, has whatever the minimal fees are just rolled in, which means we'll be able to be much more competitive as a gateway with the likes of Stripe. And it's not like we're not doing the typical route of trying to say, hey, we're going to come out and topple all the banks in 3 years. It's like it's not realistic, but offering an alternative, one that is cheaper. So we're currently going to a whole bunch of vendors, primarily in I don't want to say third world, but emerging, like emerging countries where they, infrastructure is a bit tricky and very expensive, and there's like a lot of corruption. So yeah, this is really where we're heading towards, where Kujira, the platform of Kujira becomes very much a payments platform. And then all of the protocols that are built on top of that are kind of like your services, that make this entire ecosystem viable in terms of actually being able to, whether it be loan someone something, or whether it be, people just putting their money to work in a safe and secure environment, and then going off and be able to make real world payments, whether you're a merchant or just an end user. That's something that we're really excited about. Like the team, have got like an unusual amount of experience in point of sale. Not so much me, but I've had a little bit. I mean, I built WooCommerce sites and things like that for many years. But Hans and Brett have actually built entire POS systems, and in some case multiple, and then rolled those out to various places in countries, and had to deal with all that stuff. So yeah, we feel like we'd be in a pretty good position to have a really good crack at decentralized commerce, really, and starting with the low-hanging fruits, instead of going like we're going to topple all the banks tomorrow. It's like, no, we're going to go and give people a cheaper alternative, potentially a faster alternative, and one that means, as we've said, you actually in control of your own money. So that's actually something that we're actively doing now, speaking to, e-commerce is a good win. If you've got vendors that are doing whatever, a few $100K to a few million, this is a good place to start. And then we move on to people on the ground. And anyone that needs to kind of take payments and they they're feeling a little bit kind of heavy on the fees and they want a decentralized experience, this is kind of where we're starting.
Yeah, this is huge, because you go from having a DEX, having just liquidations platform, and you just taking it just so much further with the whole wallet payment system. Yeah, you're not stopping. And I think a common question sometimes that you guys get is how big is your team, or is your how many devs are working on this? And it's often if I'm not mistaken, it is just Hans in the background, which is one guy developing all of this.
Well, with Brett, importantly, so the
Right.
very, very like amazing combination between like the gnarly sort of back end tech and then the front end. Of course, we will when these products will probably end up becoming not standalone in terms of in the true sense, but they'll probably need their own maintenance. The wallet and the whole payment system will end up being one huge piece. But for now, we're just building the foundations, and we're more than happy to do that. We've been able to do it in a really timely manner. So at the moment, we haven't seen a point of just going, let's go hire like 40 devs, because we'd actually end up doing less, because you guys know it'll end up being like more of a management overhead than anything. So yeah, just working super hard, doing what we can for now, and then the idea would be to scale up teams around specific products, and then of course the protocols will be managing their own thing, and ultimately these things will become a lot more self-sufficient. At the moment, this is another thing, not to get into this, but in terms of open source, we viewed that as being more of like a collaboration tool, and at the moment we're really wanting to get the products and this ecosystem to a place that we then say, okay, now let's collaborate. So that was another piece of the thinking, is that the collaboration can come once we feel this is in a good place. And also it's about developing different relationships and all the rest of that. So yeah, still quite a lot of work to do around that stuff, and then it'll become a much more kind of collaborative environment, even for the core products.
Right. There's so much happening there, really. We do have a question out here. I think Prasau is trying to wrap their head around how USK actually works. Maybe you can help with this stuff, because they don't quite understand USK. Is it auto minted or is it manual? Is it when you trade into it on Fin? They kind of expand on it, like just USK get created when you trade into it, or is it people just go out there and mint a bunch of USK? Can you expand a little bit on how that process works? How does USK enter the market?
Yeah, sure. So just reading the question, that I'll work backwards, because there were a few there, but basically no, it's over collateralized. In other words, you need to go off and mint manually in a manual way. So there's no mechanism to sort of like auto mint it, and then there is burning that happens. We can talk about that. That's a natural process. It's not like algorithmic. So you go up, at the moment it's only Atom, so you put up your Atom as collateral, which means that it's much like taking out any loan. People are going to say, can you actually back this up with something? In this case right now, it's Atom, soon to be Nomic, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, brought over by Axelar, because these are two methods that we've seen to be, really, really safe, just about as safe as Tendermint is itself. So that's like, if a breakdown was to happen in Tendermint, I guess, Cosmos is pretty screwed anyway. So we're going to have a wide variety of collateral assets that you'd be able to go off. So yeah, you need to manually go off and mint that USK. But what happens after that is, let's say somebody mints 300,000 and then goes and buys Kuji with the USK. That USK then starts getting distributed to more and more people. So it's definitely not like something that can just happen, that USK needs to be minted in the first place, manually by different users. But then naturally what happens over time is, of course, due to various buying and selling, it then gets distributed into the market. So no, you wouldn't be able to buy, a whale can't buy 1 million because unless it exists, right? And unless there was that much in the book to begin with. So we do on our Medium. I really would encourage it, just because there's a lot. There's kind of a lot to unpack. But if you go to our Medium, it's linked to from our website, Kujira.app. There's a couple of really good articles in there that really get into the mechanics, and it goes into great detail. Like if you have exactly this dollars and you do that, and then this is, and it explains the mechanisms, from top to bottom. So that's just a quick overview. It needs to be minted. It can't come out of nowhere as such. It actually needs to exist. And in terms of the mint caps, those are, we've just set them for now, and we'll raise them as we go. Yeah, I'll show you, Julian. A little bit further down, that's one, but I'll show you the one a little bit more, slide bit more, think a bit more further. We've been writing a lot.
There's a lot on the Medium.
Yeah, there we go, that one. Yeah, Kujira USK stablecoin launch, kickstarting grown up DeFi. That really explains the model in detail. And as we've said before, it's not like we've remade the wheel on this one. It's very closely follows the MakerDAO model for DAI, with just a few little bits that we added, but that goes into great detail. And yeah, if anyone's curious about the stablecoin, I'd encourage you to check that out. You can only borrow up to 60% LTV, so it is safe. Of course, if you are minting at a higher LTV, you need to really just make sure that you're watching your loan, because it is a type of loan. But we just felt like it seems like the safest way of doing this, right? We need a stablecoin in the ecosystem. We're not trying to rush to a zillion in market cap just because it looks cool. We want this to actually be stable and to work, and to give people just another tool that they can use in the ecosystem, and then ultimately this USK to find its way into the market, which if you look at MakerDAO, it kind of happens naturally as you go. So yeah, thanks, Julian, you explaining there. Yeah, so dash blue is like I didn't explain that because it's very important, but this is our sort of all things Kujira dashboard, where obviously you can see stats, you can see block times and whatever else, APRs and general vesting schedules. The wallet, of course, sending, you can swap in there. You can bridge IBC, and then you can stake, you can participate in governance. So this is really where you do all these sorts of various actions.
And you guys did do this staking power breakdown, which is first in pretty much anywhere I've seen, just highlighting which validators have the most power to make it more decentralized and give a little more power to the smaller validators, so that people are open to staking to the rest of the validators that are just as important as well. So this is huge, and if I'm not mistaken, people can actually use this one for the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem to kind of see where there's too much power.
Exactly. So if you go to pod, there we go. Just basically a community tool that we built. Like we don't get anything from, it's not like it's not a money making thing. You can select your chain, and then you can connect, and it's not coming via Kujira or anything. That's a native connection. So there, if you were connected, you would actually be connected to Cosmos Hub. And then you can go off and rebalance and just get a more graphical representation of the decentralization of the chain. It's like anything. We get some flack about this, and we get a lot of praise about this. It's like, not everyone's going to be happy, but at the end of the day, having a more decentralized chain is it's probably the most important thing. Ours is becoming more and more decentralized. Not saying it's due to this tool, but we've definitely seen it helping. So yeah, this was just something that we thought was was a cool UI. And here we have the Mint UI. I didn't mention Dot. It's pretty hard to bring over. We're working with Axelar to make that much easier. You get into little gotchas where you need like a gas token and then you don't have it. So we feel like once working with Squid and Axelar, actually great teams, this is going to become much easier. So again, there's all these technical bits happening. But yeah, if you look at Atom, you go in there, let's say you've got your Atom. We will have stake derivatives soon, which I know will make a big difference to people because you get great rewards from staking Atom, right? You don't want to lose those rewards. We totally understand that. And then basically you come in here and you can put up in amounts. It might be because you're not connected, Julian. I
believe it's because I'm not connected.
I
don't have my Kepler wallet on this browser, so
no worries. So anyway, it's pretty straightforward. Once you go into that and you are connected to Kujira, you will see the interface there where it's pretty intuitive. You basically tell it the amount of Atom that you want to put up as collateral and how much of that relative to the Atom you want to mint. In other words, do you want to kind of max out or do you want to play it more safe? And that's all there is. And then you mint that USK and you're on your way, and you just keep an eye on the liquidation price. But yeah, it's a great way of using your assets to basically be able to get more out of an ecosystem, then go off and do something with that. You might want to go and trade with some USK. Obviously, in the future, there's going to be a lot more things you could do with that. You will very soon be able to put it in BO and alongside another asset, like let's say Kuji USK or whatever, even Atom USK, get some incentives, get some of those trading profits, potentially bring that back in, bring down your LTV. That's just a way of kind of managing and being able to use assets you currently have to get a lot more out of it. So yeah, just a straightforward over collateralized model, nothing tricky, nothing weird, nothing algorithmic. Just good old fashioned collateralized lending.
Wonderful. Yeah, there's just so many things being built with Kujira on Kujira in the ecosystem. There's some comments saying that you won't even need to leave Kujira at some point, just everything will be there. So
yeah, so that's the thinking, right? Yeah, so that's exactly it. In the beginning, we were kind of referred to as an app chain. I mean, I don't mind if that's how people see it, but yeah, we see it as being something a bit more like the Rect Validator boys are saying there. Come in and you can perform just a range of finance activities, and then also some fun. Guys are doing some casino stuff, gambling. We're not saying that it doesn't have to be boring, but I think if you look at Calc and, like, for example, just as a good example of something, I don't think I've seen that before. Maybe it does exist, but I quite like the fact that we've got Calc, which I personally haven't really seen. Just DCA, take away the emotions. Obviously, the local money boys, amazing with the peer-to-peer. Something like ORCA, which it might have been copied by now, but it's another first. So I just think it's pretty cool that it's not just the standard stuff that you usually see, right, when a chain comes up. I love it. Feels like the ethos that we've created of real businesses has started filtering through now with the projects that want to I mean, Calc, awesome to show this. I think it's just fantastic. You can set up your strategies for DCAing both in and out. Just taking the emotion out of it. I think this is just a fantastic tool, and this is only the version 1, right? There's going to be all sorts of cool advanced stuff that comes along the way. So yeah, I like that Rect Validator comments is cool, because that's exactly what we are envisioning. This is like a very, very complete DeFi ecosystem, rather than just a place that has a couple of neat things going on. Then when you couple that with the concept of a side chain and real world payments and stuff, that's kind of where we see the holy grail being. So you have this very, very complete system, and then you go off and it's like, now suddenly people are accepting payments. You might be a vendor on the street. It actually, even in South Africa, where I'm from, there was an app that even guys like, because they're like, sometimes if you leave your car somewhere, it can be tricky. So you have guys that like help guard the cars, and even those guys walking around just with their mobile, like being able to accept payments. So yeah, this is important to give anyone with a mobile phone opportunity to the kind of unbanked, right? These guys are often foreigners and got no chance of getting a bank account. I'm not saying that's the only target market, but if you think about it, this is a very decent place to start and actually help people being able to trade and run businesses, and then obviously scale it up from that way up. We just don't want to go from the top down.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's definitely a different approach, but it's definitely targeting the people that might need it the most, especially. I always find that people in more developed countries, I hate kind of differentiating, but
No,
still
yeah,
people in those countries still use crypto as a very just speculative, just speculating on price go up, where people in other countries that have had a lot more trouble with banking or that type of situation definitely need crypto for different reasons. Not depending on governments, not depending on bad banks and so on. So it's definitely a different approach, and it's very needed in many places.
Yeah.
Doug, what challenges do you see kind of in the next year or two, maybe in crypto as a whole, and then in Kujira moving forward?
Yeah, crypto as a whole, who knows, right? I think we're all kind of wondering. Hopefully, not too many more kind of insolvencies that pop up, because that's definitely just denting the confidence. I personally am not even remotely worried. I think maybe I have the luxury of going through, I think now it's like my third cycle. Think we're getting close to the point, where you start seeing certain big influencers kind of saying they're going to throw in the towel, and like, I'm wrecked and it's never coming back. You tend to see this happening over and over. But I'm not of the view that this is going anywhere. In fact, if anything, everything that just happened now and the importance of decentralization, which I guess you would think that was more the point, right? I mean, think Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin wasn't created so that people can go and build centralized systems on top of it and then rinse people in the background. That's very opposite to what the vision was. And so I think we're just seeing these players that are bound to come in, bound to get greedy, and bound to do the stuff that I guess you see in the real world as such. But I think it just gets a bit more magnified with crypto, right? Like there's not the same amount of money that can be printed out of thin air to bail out, like for example, in 2008, should I say, where there was that big crisis, there you've got like the whole world's banking system that can just go in and prop it up again. Whereas we don't have that luxury yet. And that's why it takes a bit more time. But my hope is that people are going to be way more aware of this stuff. And I think it's up to all of us, right? Like all of us on this call, basically, you guys in media, technically, us building, what the challenges are, I think, are going to be to educate as many people as humanly possible about the risk factors, about staying super secure, hardware wallets, not using systems where your keys suddenly aren't yours. Look, we spoke to, I don't know, I probably won't say their name, but basically one of the biggest exchanges. And what's interesting is they were even saying to us that they foresee their role as very much being more of a sort of on and off ramping, given everything that's going on, which is I'm talking about like the top tier of exchange. So if you consider that even that level of exchange are now talking about basically, I don't want to say pivoting, but out of their own words, they said they can imagine them being more of an on and off ramp partner, and less of a, come here and do everything that you would do with your crypto. So that was pretty eye-opening for me to hear of, even guys that big with that much to kind of stand to lose or gain. So yeah, I think it's the challenge is just the education. It's making sure that people understand about wallets, and because I think you feel like it gets a little bit better each time, but then something like this happens and it blows up. So I think people have to just be aware, and know exactly what happens to their keys, and all these fancy apps that pop up where you can just quickly buy some Bitcoin in here, but you can't even send it out, often. You think about Revolut and things like that. It's like, where is that even sitting? Where is it residing? You've got no real way of actually making it yours. So yeah, I think it's just education. I think the space will be fine. It's encouraging to see centralized exchanges actually admitting that their role probably needs to be limited. They'll have to deal with a lot more regulation, and then just keep building, but make sure that potential new users are protected as much as possible.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and it's very nice to hear that approach from centralized exchanges, which also kind of hints a little bit off on who Kujira has been talking to. It's great to hear. We do have a giveaway if anyone has checked the link in the description. There's been a code that's been popping up, so don't miss out on that. Dove, is there some final words? Where can people find you? I have been sharing the Twitter a couple times, but where else can people find information on Kujira? Where can people just find anything related, or maybe they want to find you specifically because they're building, or maybe they want to have a partnership with trading, or what's the best way to contact?
Yeah, defo. So I am super active on Telegram, particularly. I'm a bit of an old man now, so Discord scares me. But no, I personally, if you go to Kujira.app, so Kujira.app, in there you can see at the top we've got the Twitter links, we've got Discord, our GitHub, right in the top right over there. So if you're a Discord user, or if you want to just find us on Twitter, we're also responsive on DMs on Twitter. Understand some people they might have Twitter but not Telegram, and then they might have Discord but not this. So yeah, if you follow that link there, that has just popped up, then if you can scroll to the bottom as well, Julian, so here you've got a whole bunch of other links. I think pretty self-explanatory. We know those logos. I would encourage you to read as many mediums as you can, but there's that docs link there, right at the bottom next to Finder. This one is something that I would highly encourage. Like you can see everything that we have on the left there now. We have really spent a lot of time. The wider team have worked hard on this. We'd like to think that pretty much anything and everything that, whether it's down to like our ethos, or all the way through to actual products that we're building, people that are coming onto the chain, various descriptions of various terminologies, and pretty much anything else, we are going to keep that super up to date. But that already has a ton of info. Realize it is a lot, but if you really, really are thinking like, I need to know these guys inside out, I would say that's probably your best bet for now.
Yeah, these docs are incredible. Daniel has been doing some incredible work with just breaking everything down here. So it's wonderful to see how much information is really just put into these docs. Thanks so much, Dov, for taking the time to speak to us, taking the time to come out.
Of course.
Yeah, so some final words, something you think people should keep in mind, or maybe wishing luck for the crypto community in general. Something you want to leave us with?
Yeah, definitely. I think just it's important that people can keep building. I understand some people might have lost funds. But I think the real important piece now is to actually just keep on working. If you can, if there are builders out there that are at a bit of a loss, we're always happy to help. We really we don't just say that. Like we're in like active chats with anyone that's building on Kujira. We're really proud of that. So yeah, what I would say is that anyone who's keen to build something, or if you just need some help, we're always happy to help literally wherever we can. But yeah, I think the wider message is to just keep building and to keep educating, like those two tracks, whether you're like a media house or an influencer or whatever, and then whether you're a builder. I think those are the two things. Like we have to do that now. We can't all just go into our shells and think, oh, it's over and wait for 3 years. That's not really where there's no progress that would be made like that. We shouldn't be waiting for bull runs to come out of the woodwork. Yeah, I guess that's all I would say. I just think like, let's just keep building and keep growing, and then keep spreading the good kind of awareness, right? Not like the when moon stuff. Own your keys, own your crypto. Boom.
There you go. Thanks so much for taking time, Dov.
You too, guys.
Again, people can check out Kujira, check out the giveaway. We've dropped the code a couple times, and that's it for today. Thanks so much.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.